We are excited to have held this training around documenting and implementing effective asset management internal controls. Now, the first extension of that is actually beyond compliance, documenting and implementing effective asset management internal controls. And the reason we did that was we realized that a lot of the organizations were really moving or were really after being compliant as far as asset management. And a lot of them had very poor asset management. So we thought that beyond their need to comply for asset management activities, what should they look at as the core thing? So we've been able to tell them and teach them that assets represent value that can improve, A, their service delivery, but then also, 2, their return on investment.
Yes, it has been of benefit to me as an auditor for the different entities, because in the training we realized that actually for someone to manage the assets well, it doesn't need to be either a government entity or a private entity, but all of us as managers need to get knowledge about the training. Principally, on any balance sheet of an organization, assets form one of the core items there, and it's important that their deployment in the generation of revenue is addressed by management. And in that regard, you need to look at whether an organization is generating maximum value from the assets at the optimal cost. Very often, you note that we're involved in acquisition of assets, but we don't know at what point we should disengage. We don't know at what point we should reinvest. Sometimes you note that the cost of maintenance of operating, the cost of operating is more than the value of the asset, but we keep on running the assets. So this training has taken us through that journey, that we should be in a position to know at what point we should disengage to gain maximum value from the assets that we deploy in the generation of revenue for the different companies or for the government.
Gatherings like this are very key because for us as asset managers, it gives us an opportunity to express the desire we have for these assets. And when we get stakeholders like this, then we usually want to give them what we feel is important. Now, asset management in government shouldn't be left to government, because these assets are actually government assets, and you and me are the government. So if you and me are the government, in other words the public, we have a role to play in these assets as far as their management is concerned. So really we call upon the public to own these assets and make sure that wherever an opportunity comes for you to enforce their management, please try to exercise your role, and it's your right. These assets are ours because they help us deliver the services to us. So if we don't really keep them, then at one way or another, we are actually doing a disservice to ourselves. Actually, it is very, very important that people get to know that if you ban 1 or 2 vehicles, these vehicles will again be bought using the resource that government has, and this money would have been used elsewhere in delivering the service. So whenever there are any riots or any uprisings, so these assets are burnt and destroyed, buildings are brought down. The end result is that for government to provide these services again, they must acquire the same assets, and the resource they use is the same public resource. So my call and plea to the public, of course, in managing and trying to preserve these assets, is that whenever there are such acts, you can restrain from having them destroyed, because they will be replenished using the same resources that would have been applied elsewhere. Since the workshop was about sharing experiences and the participants were across board, we had to share the experience that as government, the efforts we are undertaking, and also get a leaf or two from how these organizations try to manage their assets. The magnitude of the assets differs, and therefore we share leaves, we borrow, and at the end of the day you find it benefits us. But importantly for us, these are stakeholders whom we always have to deliver message and update, and information is very important so that they also know that as government we are not just looking on and leaving the assets out to get to the dogs.
As a young professional, I'm really so enthusiastic about such trainings and growing my career. I'm really so passionate about growing the different aspects in administration, this being assets management being one of my priorities. Yes, I've really benefited in a number of ways. I would tell you that we live in a global village where acquisition of assets has become so easy for most of us, but then we've been lacking so much on the part of maintenance and management of those assets. So on a day-to-day basis, I've really had a great insight through this training that has actually opened up my eyes to a different aspect of these assets, that acquisition is one, but how about maintenance and having a data set on that asset and having actual value, realizing value from those assets to this point that it will really impact on our decisions, that we minimize costs and achieve more out of these day-to-day interactions. I'd really like to mention that I've really learned a lot, most especially the key one that I've learned out is it's never only about management, it's about getting the value out of it. That getting the value out of an asset really is not just about maintaining paperwork, but rather a lot that encompasses it, that brings to the book what we've actually been looking for.
But now I'd like to believe that they have received quite some good knowledge where they can be very good ambassadors in their organizations. Being good ambassadors in their organizations means they're going to cause these discussions and then move the organization's asset management capability from a place where I would believe right now that most of them are in an innocent place where they really do not know what asset management involves. Yes, asset management is beyond just maintenance activities or maintaining assets for financial reporting. It's actually about doing asset management to realize value from them so that they can get a good financial return on investment, but then also their service delivery will be top notch.